Can you imagine? Find somewhere more suitable for your type. Those were the last words she heard as ice-cold water soaked through her shirt and they threw her resume at her chest. But what these racist interviewers didn't know was that someone powerful was watching every humiliating second through the security cameras, and their world was about to come crashing down in the most devastating way imaginable. Before I go further, I would like to say something. If you love interesting stories like this that expose the truth, please give this video a thumbs up and tell us in the comments section where in the world you are watching this video, and also do well to smash that subscribe button. Okay, let's proceed with the story. Maya Washington stepped out of a silver Honda in the parking garage of the gleaming steel tower in downtown Seattle. She had built a solid career in digital marketing, but 2 years away from the corporate world to care for her sick mother had left her hungry to prove herself again. The lobby of Sterling and Associates was ice-cold and unwelcoming. Behind the reception desk sat a young blonde woman who looked Maya up and down like she was lost. "Good morning," Maya said with a warm smile. "I'm here for my 10 o'clock interview with Jennifer Walsh." The receptionist's eyes narrowed. She picked up the phone and whispered something, never taking her eyes off Maya. "Someone will be right out," she said with a fake smile. Maya sat down and checked her watch. 10 minutes passed, then 15. Finally, a tall white man in an expensive suit emerged from the hallway. He looked surprised to see her, like he'd been expecting someone else entirely. "Maya Washington?" he asked. "I'm Brad Mitchell, marketing director. I'll be joining Jennifer today." He didn't shake her hand, just turned and walked away, expecting her to follow. In the conference room, Jennifer Walsh sat behind her laptop, glasses perched on her nose. She didn't stand up when Maya entered. "Let's get started," Jennifer said coldly. The questions came fast and harsh, not the kind Maya had prepared for. "Are you sure you applied for the right position?" Jennifer asked with a smirk. "Have you ever worked in a real corporate environment before? Why the 2-year gap in your resume?" Each question felt like a slap. Maya answered professionally, but she could feel their judgment in every word. Maya took a deep breath, her professionalism intact despite their hostility. "I'd like to address your concerns about my qualifications," she said firmly. "I have 15 years of proven results in digital marketing, including campaigns that increased revenue by over 200% for Fortune 500 companies." Jennifer's face twisted with irritation. "Listen, I don't think you understand." "I understand perfectly," Maya interrupted calmly. "My portfolio speaks for itself. I've managed international accounts across 3 continents." "Enough!" Brad snapped, his mask of politeness finally dropping. He reached for his water glass and without warning, poured it directly over Maya's head and shoulders. The cold water soaked through her blazer and blouse as Maya gasped in shock. Jennifer grabbed Maya's resume and portfolio from the table and threw the papers directly at her chest, the documents scattering across the floor. "You clearly don't qualify for this position," Jennifer said with a vicious smile. "Maybe try somewhere more suitable for your type." Maya stood there dripping wet, her carefully styled hair ruined, water running down her face. Her hands trembled with shock and rage, but she refused to cry. She slowly bent down to gather her scattered papers from the floor, her dignity intact despite their cruelty. "I see exactly who you are now," she said quietly, clutching her wet documents. She straightened up and looked them both in the eye. "This says nothing about my qualifications. It says everything about yours." Without another word, she turned and walked toward the door, water still dripping from her clothes. Behind her, she could hear Jennifer and Brad laughing. Maya walked back to the elevator alone, her heart pounding. But what she didn't know was that someone had been watching everything. On the 15th floor of that same building, behind tinted glass, Marcus Washington stood perfectly still. He had watched the entire interview through the security cameras, listening to every word through the audio feed. 3 days earlier, Marcus had quietly purchased Sterling and Associates. The 49-year-old billionaire from Detroit had built his fortune turning struggling companies into powerhouses. But this wasn't just another business deal. This was personal. Marcus had asked Maya to take the interview, not knowing if she'd get the job, but wanting to see what kind of people he was inheriting. Now he had his answer. "Play back the last 5 minutes," he told his assistant. The cruel words filled the room again. Jennifer's mocking tone, Brad's dismissive attitude, the way they cut Maya off and lied about the position being filled. Marcus pressed a button on his desk. "Get all the HR managers in my office at noon," he said quietly. "All of them." He stared out at the Seattle skyline, his jaw tight with controlled anger. These people had no idea what was coming. Maya sat in her car in the parking garage, trying to process what had just happened. 15 years of experience, glowing recommendations. And they had treated her like she didn't belong there. Her phone buzzed. A text from Marcus. "Coming home soon. Stay strong. This isn't over." She knew that tone. Even in a text message, she could tell he was planning something. Maya had met Marcus 5 years ago at a business conference. He was brilliant, successful, and saw her worth when others didn't. They fell in love over late-night conversations about changing the business world. He always told her, "Your presence is power. Never forget that." Now, sitting in that cold parking garage, she remembered those words. She started her car and drove home, not knowing that upstairs, heads were about to roll. At noon, the Sterling and Associates boardroom filled with nervous energy. Brad and Jennifer sat at the conference table, thinking this was just another routine meeting. They were wrong. Marcus walked in, his face like stone. Behind him came the HR directors and his legal team. "This morning," Marcus began, his voice deadly calm, "you both had the chance to interview a highly qualified candidate. Instead, you chose to humiliate her." Brad shifted uncomfortably. "I'm not sure what you mean." "I have everything on tape." Marcus cut him off. "Every word, every look, every lie." Jennifer's face went pale. "We didn't mean any harm." "You asked her if she applied for the right job," Marcus said, his voice getting harder. "You questioned her qualifications. You lied about the position being filled. And you did it all because you decided she didn't look like what you expected." The room fell silent. "Here's what's going to happen," Marcus continued. "You're both fired. Effective immediately. And when the press release goes out next week announcing the new ownership, the whole city will know exactly why." Brad turned red. "You can't do this." "I just did," Marcus replied. "Security will escort you out." That afternoon, Maya's phone rang. It was Sarah Chen, Marcus's assistant. "Mrs. Washington? Mr. Washington would like to invite you back to the office. The executive team would like to meet with you properly." Maya thought about it for a moment. "Tell them I'll be there in an hour." This time, when Maya walked into the Sterling and Associates lobby, everything was different. The same receptionist who had been rude that morning now avoided eye contact. A professional security guard escorted Maya to the executive floor. In the boardroom, 5 senior executives waited to meet her. Marcus stood at the head of the table. "Everyone," Marcus said, "I'd like you to meet Maya Washington. She has 15 years of proven success in digital marketing, and this morning, your former colleagues decided she wasn't worth their time." Maya stepped forward confidently. "I want to make something clear," she said. "I didn't come here looking for charity. I know what I bring to the table. What I won't accept is being dismissed because I don't fit someone's narrow idea of what success looks like." The executives nodded, clearly impressed. "I took time off to care for my dying mother," Maya continued. "I don't apologize for that. What I won't tolerate is being treated like I'm less than qualified because of it." Linda Rodriguez, the head of operations, leaned forward. "Ms. Washington, I have no excuse for what happened this morning. But I have to ask, would you still want to work here?" Maya paused, choosing her words carefully. "I didn't come here to be someone's diversity hire. I came here to do excellent work. But after this morning, I realize I don't need to prove myself to people who refuse to see my value." She turned to Marcus. "Thank you for standing up for me. But I have other plans." The next morning, Sterling and Associates employees found a company-wide email in their inboxes. The subject line read, "Leadership changes and new standards." Marcus introduced himself as the new CEO and made it clear that the old way of doing business was over. He announced that Brad Mitchell and Jennifer Walsh had been terminated for discriminatory hiring practices. A complete audit of the company's hiring history would begin immediately. By noon, the entire office was buzzing with whispers and nervous energy. Meanwhile, Maya sat in a quiet coffee shop across town, working on her laptop. She had made her decision. Instead of taking the job at Sterling and Associates, she was starting her own consulting firm. Elevate Strategies, she called it. Her mission was simple: help businesses tell authentic stories while lifting up underrepresented voices. Within a week, 3 former clients had reached out, asking if she was available for consulting work. She was more than ready. That evening, Maya stood in her kitchen making dinner when Marcus came home from work. "You turned down the job," he said, loosening his tie. "I did," Maya replied, stirring the pasta sauce. "I already have a better one." Marcus smiled. "Elevate Strategies. How did you know?" "I know you. You don't just survive, you thrive." They stood together in comfortable silence for a moment. "Do you think it will make a difference?" Maya asked. "One woman walking away from one company." Marcus considered the question. Change doesn't start with headlines. It starts with moments like this morning. It starts when someone refuses to accept being treated as less than they are. Maya nodded, understanding. The same people who tell us to be patient are often the ones who hope we'll stay quiet. "Not anymore," Marcus said firmly. The doorbell rang. Maya opened it to find Linda Rodriguez standing on her porch with an envelope. "I wanted to deliver this personally," Linda said. "It's a formal apology from the board and a statement acknowledging what happened." Maya looked at the envelope but didn't take it. "That's a start," she said quietly. "But remember, respect isn't something you can put in a folder." Linda nodded. "For what it's worth, people are scared now. Not of you, but of being exposed for who they really are." Maya gave a small nod and closed the door. Back in the kitchen, Marcus was checking his phone. "Anything interesting?" Maya asked. "Johnson and Associates called. They heard you're back in business and want to hire you for their rebranding campaign." Maya grinned. "Tell them I don't do charity work. I deliver results." They sat together at the kitchen table, the weight of the day finally settling. This wasn't about revenge. It never had been. It was about truth. About being seen and choosing not to shrink when others tried to make you smaller. Maya didn't scream or beg or plead. She walked out with her head high and built her own door. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is refuse to accept less than you deserve. 6 months later, Maya's consulting firm had grown to 15 employees. Sterling and Associates had undergone a complete transformation under Marcus's leadership, becoming one of Seattle's most diverse and successful companies. The story of that morning interview had become legendary in business circles, not as a tale of discrimination, but as a powerful example of what happens when people refuse to accept the unacceptable. Maya often thought about that cold morning in the parking garage, when she sat in her car wondering if she was enough. Now she knew the truth. She had always been enough. The question was whether others were ready to see it. As she often told her team, "Your presence is power. Never let anyone convince you otherwise." This story reminds us that sometimes the most powerful response to discrimination isn't anger, it's excellence. When people try to make you smaller, the best revenge is building something bigger than their narrow minds could ever imagine.